Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, Kim Seltzer, a dating and makeover expert, where I will help you build confidence, make connections, and find love from the outside in. Does this sound like a relationship you might have just gotten out of, or had that it was like making it just hard to trust and date this person? Okay, so just listen to this list. You're made to feel like you're never enough, yet somehow always the problem. Love feels conditional based on approval, performance, or compliance. Your feelings are dismissed, minimized, or turned against you. You find yourself walking on eggshells, constantly self monitoring. And over time, your confidence, voice, and sense of identity begins to erode. And then the relationship could just end as fast as it came. Sometimes it just ends just like that. And if this sounds familiar, you probably were in a narcissistic relationship. And if you were married, you are probably having an even harder time getting back out there and rebuilding your sense of self afterward. Narcissism isn't just about ego or vanity or someone who's puffed up. It often shows up as control, emotional manipulation, gaslighting, and a constant power imbalance. One partner's needs, emotions, and reality dominate the relationship while the other slowly adapts, minimizes themselves, and doubts their own experience just to keep the peace, just to appease that person. And often your voice is shut down and your light is dim. And in many narcissistic marriages, for a lot of people, especially men, the aftermath can be surprising and disorienting. If you expect relief, but instead you're left with confusion, emotional numbness, self doubt, or a constant sense of being on edge, this is where I often see the post relationship trauma show up. And there's even something called PTSD in narcissistic relationships. I mean, these symptoms are real, they're clinical, they show up in most people who have been in narcissistic relationships. It's, replaying conversations and questioning your own judgment and reality. You might be feeling triggered by conflict, criticism, or emotional closeness, difficulty trusting yourself and others. Emotional shutdown or over control, fear of intimacy mixed with a deep longing for connection. And the hardest part is that most people don't realize they were in the narcissistic dynamic until they're out. And so instead of understanding what happened, they blame themselves. They ask, why didn't I see it? Or what is wrong with me? And this is where dating becomes especially complicated, because even when the marriage is over, the conditioning often isn't. And so you may step back into dating wanting that connection, but your nervous system is still in the survival mode. And dating just feels overwhelming, it's confusing, or even unsafe. And you might notice yourself over analyzing texts, scanning for red flags, pulling back emotionally, or doubting your instincts, or what I call overgeneralizing. So there might be one thing on that profile that looks like your ex, and you're like, nope, that's a narcissist. Or you might be under judging the profile, and you just kind of get pulled into the same kind of people. But some of the most common challenges I see when dating after this kind of relationship is like you just have difficulty trusting your judgment, intuition. You fear being manipulated, and you're missing the signs. You might be almost hyper aware or hyper vigilant, and you're like guarding yourself emotionally. It could show up in your body language, even like how you speak. You might be keeping things totally surface level to avoid being vulnerable because you don't want to be hurt, or if you are that overgiver, and most likely if you have attracted a narcissist, you probably are a people pleaser and overgiver. And you might just fall back into that when you're scared and not sure, because that's where your confidence lives. So, in other words, there's this tug of war constantly. Like you want intimacy, but you don't want to lose yourself again. You want to be open, but you don't want to get hurt. And for many men, this is especially hard to talk about. I am super excited about who's on today because, often I'll have women on here talk about being in a narcissistic relationship with a man. And today I have a man who was in a narcissistic marriage, and we're going to really talk about how to find that right person again and relearning how to feel safe in a connection. So, I'm going to be coaching him live on the show, navigating the aftermath of this relationship and the challenges of dating again overall. And if there's any part of this that resonates with you, know this: you're not alone, you're not broken, you're healing. Welcome, Rex. Are you there?
Hey, thanks for having me on, Kimmy.
Thank you for coming on. And I told you this before, and I'm so grateful that you're coming on here to not just help yourself, but there are so many others who deal with this.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of a new awareness in like the kind of therapeutic community to work with narcissism as like a personality trait, or it's like a spectrum. So we don't know if it's a full-on disorder or not, but there are narcissistic tendencies in probably a lot of relationships, and sometimes they get to the point where they are a very kind of subtle form of abuse. And so yeah, if I
Mm.
can help anybody to kind of recognize the signs and hopefully, save themselves before, getting too much heartache or worse, then it'll be a time well spent with you today.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I would love you. I know we briefly had that conversation, just one conversation, and you impressed me so much. I wanted to have you come on here, and you have a good radio voice. So I'm like, that's a no-brainer. um, I'd love for you to share just a little bit about just, what you have been through, especially dealing with your ex and all that, and then where you're finding yourself having challenges, moving on and getting back out there.
Thank you. Yeah, so we were together for 5 years and married for three, and we have two beautiful little babies. We've got a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, so little babies. And unfortunately, our marriage has hit the rocks, and we are, going through divorce, and it's been very hard on everybody. But yeah, as far as like narcissism goes, in some of my research, there's grandiose narcissism, which is usually
Hmm.
what shows up in men. But then there's also covert narcissism, which is maybe a lot harder to detect and is usually what can show up as it did in my marriage with a female partner. So, what it kind of felt like. In the relationship is at the beginning there's what's called love bombing, where she kind of takes on a lot of the tendencies and a lot of the best traits from me or from the target or the partner. And so the beginning of it is amazing honeymoon phase, everything feels perfect, you feel like you're in it for the forever. And the love bombing, just lots of compliments, just lots of really amazing vibes the whole time. So that was basically our first 2 years, and we just moved really quickly, proposed really quick, and got pregnant with Aiden, my son, pretty fast. So, but then pretty soon as Aiden came around, we started kind of arguing more, having kind of the normal stressors of parenting that I'm sure anybody that's raising little kids goes through. But it became unmanageable pretty quickly because there was never any like give and take. There was never
Mm.
like working together as partners that respect each other in order to decide the right course of action. It was always her way or the highway. It was always her opinion as to the right way to do it, never really asking me or considering what I think the right thing to do would be. And that manifested in a whole lot of different ways, that led to like arguments. Pretty soon, in the love bombing or the first phase, they build up the partner to be this perfect person. They build up an image
Yeah.
in their head of a perfect person, and then they fall in love with that person. But then what happens is, with me and with others in the position, end up not being a perfect person. We make mistakes and have issues of our own, and so pretty quickly that perfect person image, it starts to degrade, and then they move into the next phase of degrading and kind of almost like devaluing that person. And
Hmm.
that shows up with just constant nagging. Any small mistakes get kind of blown out of proportion. There's never any forgiveness or any like real communication. Like we went to marriage therapy and just really never got anywhere because it was always just 100% directed on me and my mistakes, and never really met as both of us working on the relationship. So the devalue phase was, pretty, I don't know if I can call it abuse, but it was definitely hurt a lot to know that, my partner is just not in love with me the same way I'm in love with her. And, I just never felt good enough, never felt like anything I did was enough, even after buying a house for us to live in, buying a car for her to drive, even buying her a business to run and be the owner of, and be her own businesswoman, two beautiful children. That's like everything that most couples strive for. We achieved in, a very short time. And still, it was just never enough. No gratitude, no appreciation of where we were. And that, of course, led to resentment on my part and then more fights. And
Mm.
so then by the end, we're arguing, we're fighting, and everything just fell apart. And then it's time to move into the discard phase. So pretty quickly, marriage is over. I move out, and we are left in a place where she just is at basically just so cold, no emotion, almost like I never existed, or like certainly like she was never my whole world, or the partner, mother of her children. I've just become basically discarded and worthless. And that also has been very challenging emotionally to build my self-worth back up and my confidence to the point where I can imagine, starting my life over and finding hopefully another partner that is open to kids, but that also, doesn't have these same tendencies that have been so destructive to our marriage.
Oh, Rex. Yeah. First of all, thank you for sharing all of that. And I so feel just that journey with you. I mean, there's so many people who have been through this kind of thing. And you know how you were saying, and I was saying in the beginning, as fast as it comes, it leaves. I call these interactions tornado type of relationship because they swoop you off your feet, and it's almost a drug. And usually narcissists know where someone lives, they know how to grab them
Uh,
and then chew them up and then spit them out. And then you're left on the ground with all the remnants around you. Like, what just happened? And it's almost like a shock to the system. And, um, you know, I wonder too, like what you were saying, and I appreciate this part too about the self-worth and the confidence, like even you could be the most confident person at work to your friends, your family, everything else. And then there's this area of your life, right, where it just makes you second guess. Because that's what happens too. It makes you second guess yourself. And when you're in the midst of it, you almost feel like you're crazy. Like, is there something wrong with me? Did you have that feeling too?
Well, yeah, and it's funny how you mentioned, yeah, the self-worth is, when I first met her, I was at the best place, mental health and confidence and everything I've ever been
Ah,
in my life. I went down to Sedona and went to this really amazing, it's called a self-love retreat, and did a lot of like therapy and like a lot of new school, new age type yoga, meditation, therapy type
mm-hmm.
treatments, and left me in the best place I've ever been. So that's where I met her. And then now, after, this is all over, this is definitely like the worst I've ever felt mentally and confidence wise. So it's been a pretty dramatic kind of unraveling of my psyche. And yeah, definitely with a lot of the gaslighting and a lot of the devaluing and nagging, it definitely, did leave me for a time thinking that I was, mentally unstable or mentally
Yeah.
crazy. And the chaos and the confusion just leads you to that place where you don't know what to believe and you don't know what's real because with her disappearing the way she disappears in the discard phase, how could that have been a real loving relationship like it felt from my side?
Hmm.
It just feels like you don't know what to believe anymore, and so that does make you feel like mentally just questioning your reality and questioning your sanity at times.
Well, I want to talk about that. And by the way, that's why I'm so happy that you're doing this. And just know that that Rex that you talked about before you met her, he's in there, right? Like he didn't leave. He was kind of suppressed and pushed down and chewed up and spit out. And, like we just have to get you back. And it is a rebuilding of trust too. Cause I was going to say also, what has been now your experience now that you're like getting back out there? And have you started to date? Like, tell me a little bit about that and like what you're struggling with now.
Yeah, and I guess one last thing is that a lot of times in the devaluing phase, the man or the partner will just start to just disappear, like your identity starts to disappear and
Yeah.
end up totally muted, afraid to say anything. And I'm kind of not that type of person, so I could feel that pull towards my identity being like absorbed or being like kind of taken away. And I kind of fought back against it. So that's what, hence, like the arguments and stuff that we had, was
Mm.
really just my ego kind of fighting to stay alive instead of, totally disappearing into the void. And so, yeah, that's kind of two ways it could go. It could end in a kind of a big blowout like ours did, or it could end in just the partner just staying and just being kind of mentally checked out, which is, I think,
Oh,
usually how it goes. But as
yeah.
far as my dating life
Oh,
now,
wait,
yeah.
1 second, because I want to. Oh, that was so important what you said too, just being a man. I really want to highlight that because anybody, whether you're a man or a woman coming out of a narcissistic relationship, your confidence is shot. I mean, I remember, going through it myself, and like anybody would feel that way when you're gaslit and all that. But I think there's another layer here to your point when you're a man, because, like your identity as a man is to provide and protect and to have that confidence to go out to be able to do that again. And when that's taken away, that's another layer of the confidence too. So I'm thank you for sharing that too. And again, that'll be part of the rebuilding again. So anyway, yeah, go on because that was really important.
Yeah, and that's another part of recovery and another part of the abuse that's very hard is, yeah, when your identity is taken away so quickly, like it basically just happened within I mean, she had started checking out long before, but from my perspective,
Hmm.
I didn't know it was really coming. I knew we were arguing, but I didn't expect the drop off to be just like falling off a cliff where all of a sudden we're at, no contact and she's just completely gone what felt to me like overnight. So that, and then my all of a sudden my identity, I'm no longer, a husband. It's now we're doing custody, arguments. So it's hard to, my identity as a
Hmm.
father is all thrown out of whack because I'm not in the home with my children anymore. So yeah, there's been a lot of identity disruption and trying to get back to myself. And so now,
Hmm.
yeah, now that we're, on the other side of it, I'm out there kind of on the dating apps and just starting slow with just kind of chatting, on some of the apps and exchanging a few voice messages. Still haven't really had a chance to go, on a date in person yet, but have gone on, I signed up for a group called Events and Adventures. So I've done some of these kind of group, kind of activities based singles group outings. And
Hmm.
so trying to get my confidence back that way, like in real life, as well as, the apps, they're just kind of unsatisfying. You just almost get like fatigue just from looking at so many faces and just
Yeah.
imagining so many possible people that your brain pretty quickly just gets overloaded and fatigued. And it it leads to, yeah, like overwhelm or like exhaustion almost, is what I've kind of been encountering with the dating apps. So also trying to do it in out in the real world with this kind of low pressure singles group. And so that's been pretty helpful along the way as well. But
Okay, you're on the
haven't been
right
on a
track.
date yet. Maybe
Yeah, no, no,
I
no. This is
fast haven't had it happen.
perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Wait, and so how long have you been at it right now? Just
Since about October
okay.
was like the big blowout, and then been on the apps for maybe about a month now. So yeah.
Okay, okay. So no, you're doing great, and I love that your focus is just the IRL stuff, in real life, and getting back to basics. Like just it's almost like, and I told you this on the phone, but I'll reinstate it, is that you're in the state of reinvention. It's like, who is Rex beyond this relationship that you've been in, and also the toxic relationship that you've been in. And then remind me, prior to this, did you have much dating experience?
Yeah, I was always in long-term relationships. So I've always had kind of ever since high school, always had like a girlfriend or on and off again, girlfriend, partner, and would have little pockets of dating on my own, but they never really lasted very long. Like pretty quickly found somebody that was, right or felt right at the time, and, went into another long-term relationship. And somehow they always last around the same amount of time, like around 5 years or so, a little under 5 years. I hear
Wow.
a lot of marriages only last, maybe 5 years, and mine like almost to the month of when we met is when we had the blowout and lost it all. So like literally to the month, it was 5 years. So there's something in that
Bit of
time
a
frame there that
pattern.
is just very common for people. But yeah, not much time just out on my own as a single person going on multiple dates. Never really felt all that comfortable dating more than one person at once. I'm always just feel more comfortable being like monogamous. And obviously when you're just dating somebody, that's fine. They can date somebody else if they want to. I just always I'm always shooting to get to the place where I'm in just like a monogamous relationship, just so that I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. Like I don't know how anybody could be like polyamory or any of that crazy stuff. It just seems like my mind would not be able to handle that. So yeah, and I haven't had too much time just out there dating, but maybe this is my window here. Who knows?
It is your window, so it's the first thing that I'm going, and I don't want it to shut too quickly. And we need to let this window stay open for a bit. And I think within that, I have some ideas for you. But I want also to kind of go back to what you said, that you never really liked just kind of dating, that you really like to date to get attached almost with somebody. Like you enjoy the relationship. It's clear that you're a relationship guy, and it's so beautiful. By the way, don't change that. I'm not saying change that, but there may be a different way of looking at what dating is and redefining it for yourself. um and I just wonder, like, I'd love to hear a little more about your upbringing. Like, what was your, what were your parents like, and kind of like the role models that you had?
Yeah, so growing up, my parents were together. They stayed together my whole life. Had a really beautiful childhood. Everything I think was really wonderful. Growing up they lived with my mom's parents in the upstairs and my folks in the downstairs. So I was also with my grandmother and grandfather growing
Mm.
up as a baby and as a toddler and stuff. So that was really nice. And then, yeah, once we got to about middle school, as happens with a lot of boys, I don't know if girls are better with this, but, kind of started to rebel and started to, get in a little bit more trouble, that kind of thing. So it's a little rocky. And once I hit high school, my dad, he was an alcoholic, but he was
Um,
not like violent or abusive or anything like that. Thankfully, there was none of that. But, by the nature of alcoholism, just end up becoming a little bit neglectful. It wasn't quite there as the the kind of role model that I needed to guide me towards um, knowing what a man is supposed to do, boundaries and kind of
Mm.
even confidence, self-worth type issues. Usually they would learn from the dad, and he always loved me, so like I don't have any issues when it comes to giving love or accepting love, knowing what real love is. And I would say that's was a huge contrast to a narcissist where I don't think she really learned how to give love in the same way as I learned, with
Hmm.
it being unconditional. Like I feel like a lot of love is conditional with the narcissists, based on what you can do for them, not based on who you are. Like I always felt like I was kind of interchangeable and could just be anybody in the relationship. But yeah,
Yeah.
back to my upbringing, and then kind of found a pretty good friend group, started going out on my own, went to college, and just have been kind of just navigating it the best I can ever since. But I've never been great at like kind of opening or picking up people, meeting people out there. I've never been great at like kind of opening conversations up with
Like the approach,
strangers. Yeah, the approach. So that's always
flirting.
a little tough for me. But yeah, that's about the only thing I could think of as far as how I learned some of my like attachment styles, or maybe some of the things that make me the way I am, would be kind of in high school during those formative years. My mom was very stressed out from the alcoholism, and my dad was
Mm.
kind of just a little bit more absent. And so, yeah, I didn't really get that those strong boundaries and strong confidence that would come with two parents that are really fully engaged the whole time,
Well,
unfortunately.
that, yeah, no, Rex, this is really important, and I'm not sure if you've ever like addressed this or looked at this, but tell me more. Like when mom was stressed out with everything she was dealing with dad, did you provide support to her? Like, were you worried about mom?
I was mostly worried about dad. I can remember,
Mm.
being worried that he has also smoked cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was always worried about him dying. I was worried
Mm.
about I was going to lose him, and came pretty close a couple of times to actually losing him. And light at the end of the tunnel is that around when I was around 23 or 24, he did end up going to the hospital for pancreatitis, and they said if you ever drink again, you'll die. And so he stopped
Mm.
drinking, and so he stopped drinking and he stopped smoking at that time, and he was with us for another 15 years or so, like that, sober and no cigarettes. And unfortunately, last year the cigarettes ended up catching up with him, and he did pass away from COPD. And
Oh.
again, I was just going back to it, and like, she just my ex-wife, she just wasn't there for me even when my dad was dying. Like she didn't come and visit him in the hospital or even visit him when he was in home. And I was like looking back at some of the pictures, and it's just me and my babies that came to visit him, but never my wife by my side. It just seemed so strange, because when her grandmother was facing cancer, we would fly out to Dallas and go and visit her, and we did like a tea party and a Christmas banquet, and we did all these wonderful things for her grandmother out all the way out in Dallas. But then when it came to my dad, actually, that's my favorite person in the whole world, passing away, she just wasn't there for me the way that I needed. And I think that led to even more resentment. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty tough. So
I-
yeah, I did end up losing him, but not after a good 15 years of having him in my life. And he got to meet my children and got to see me in
Oh,
a
that's
happy
beautiful.
marriage at the love bombing phase. So
Yeah.
he passed away. He thought everything was just
He
perfect.
got the good part. Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't have to see any of this heartache and hard stuff that's happening now. So it's
Oh, I'm
a good thing.
sure. Yeah, yeah, it would be very hard for him to see that. Going back to your childhood, I wondered, did you feel, because and one thing that I've just gotten to know, even from our last call and even now, it's so clear to me that you're a caretaker, and it sounds like you were the caretaker too, even in the marriage. Were you like that when you were young as well? Like even as a little boy, like wanting to take care of dad, wanting to take care of mom when she was stressed out, like that kind of thing?
Yeah, I can remember writing my dad like poems and like really I was like a very avid reader and writer in
Mhm.
high school and college, and so I could write these really amazing like poetry, almost like philosophical writing. And I can remember like writing him some of these different letters or even on like Christmas cards, things like that, just kind of just begging him to stop, begging him to quit smoking and to stop drinking. And so, yeah, I was trying to caretake him in that way, like mentally. But as anybody knows, that's when you're dealing with kind of addiction, it's just the logic and the words just don't really work, and it has to come down to like the emotion or
Right.
the his actual physical health being in jeopardy. But with my mom, yeah, I can remember her being stressed out, and I can remember trying to always be there for her and help her take care of her. And even now, she's in her late 70s. So one good thing of kind of my marriage falling apart is that I am here to take care of my mom in her golden years or whatnot. So yeah, I do always try to be a caretaker and try to help as much as I can. And like I said, I try to do everything I could possibly think of to make Megan's life just beautiful. And from traveling the world to the all the check boxes, the house, the car, the two babies, and even a business to run. So, and then after bought her the business, 2 or 3 months later, she discarded me and divorced me and worse. So it all that
Yeah.
happened so fast. My head is still spinning from the speed that narcissists can move from the different
Oh,
phases.
yeah. And I can hear that it's still really affecting you, like even as we're talking about it. So it's there. It's still there. I, I wondered when you would be the caretaker as a boy. I'm going back still, and we'll come full circle. And I want to give you some, tips for moving forward. But do you remember your mom and dad kind of praising you for being the caretaker? Like, oh, it's a good thing Rex, is here to help us. Like, did you have that kind of like,
Sure. Yeah, my mom's always been very, very supportive. Always, she
yeah,
saves like all my writing. She saves all the different essays and art pieces, and she saved like everything from my high school. We have a whole, crafting room that's just full of all my old stuff. So yeah, my mom's always been very, very complimentary, almost to the point of like, kind of like I don't know, just being a little bit too supportive sometimes. Like maybe I
mm-hmm.
didn't really learn boundaries very much. It just everything was always kind of a green light and was just I didn't get many no's growing up.
Yeah,
I kind of never learned how to deal with a world that's going to keep serving up no's to you.
right, right.
So yeah, and then my dad also was just very loving, very supportive as well. But again, yeah, not much by way of boundaries, telling me no, telling me to be careful, be cautious, watch out for this, watch out for that. So I never really hit the brick wall of like things being hard and being a nose until I met Megan and moved into that relationship where all of a sudden everything felt like I was doing something wrong. So I went from just everything is right to everything.
Everything is wrong. Yeah. The pendulum effect, I call it. Well, I don't know if you're hearing the connection here. Are you, and what I'm getting at? Do you see the connection of your upbringing to who you attracted?
Um, no, please help me understand the
Okay.
psychology. I'm just a simple man.
I
I don't
want to,
understand.
well, and the reason why I'm kind of just hovering here, this is really, really important, Rex, because it'll relate to as you're meeting women out there on really doing some data dating, as I call it, and having this period of time to take a fine-tuned look at this dynamic for yourself so it doesn't happen to you again. Because so think about it. You're growing up in almost kind of this I'll just say sheltered life where like you can do no wrong, right? Like you were the caretaker. You had a dad who you were very, very worried about for his health and his well-being. And then on top of it, you had a mom who you were worried about because she was so stressed out about dad, right? And so you kind of took all that on and became the caretaker, and then they praised the hell out of you. And so guess what little boy Rex got really good at? Being the caretaker, and he got validated for it. And guess where his confidence lives? Being the caretaker, right? And so what happens moving forward is that that's anytime you're in stress or like, thinking about relationships, you will default back to the caretaker Rex because that's what you're good at.
Yeah.
And almost too much so, right? Where you might be giving your power away. You might be the people pleaser. You might not, like discern enough for yourself on like who's right for me, who's wrong for me. You just jump into being that like Labrador Retriever Rex. Like, here I am, I'll do it. And
Yeah.
then, right? And then what happens too is that with like women, it was a subconscious thing. It's not like you chose your ex because of this, but layered with everything that was happening is that you had a constant fear of abandonment.
Yeah.
That's where it's really stemming from because you were scared dad was going to die. Like
Yeah.
there was this like fear of that. And so anytime you carry some of that fear of abandonment and that caretaker kind of energy, you attract kind of that or latch on to the relationship of somebody. That's why like it was interesting because you even use that word. You're like, well, I don't really like very much not being with somebody or attached to somebody, right? Like you because there's a fear of maybe even just being alone. And I think that this is the first thing that you really is almost like your mantra right now as you bridge into the single world is who is Rex, beyond a woman and being okay with Rex without a woman. And like really knowing what your value is because Rex, you are such an amazing guy. Like I've only gotten to know you in 2 calls and you keep impressing me, but a woman's got to earn that from you. Like I think you're just giving too much away of yourself too soon, too fast. And then you get sucked into the 5-year relationship and then they spit you out again. Like it's pacing things out. It's really doing some data dating and what I call dating yourself. Because you know how you said, well, I'm not the kind of guy that's just going to date around, and it, if you replace the word dating with just meeting, like just meeting a bunch of women, you don't have to have sex with them. You're not using them. It's like, who are you? Like you've never just had that time in your life where you can just do that and have the freedom, but you also have to be okay with that kind of discomfort of not being in the relationship or attached and being that like people pleaser fixer guy, you know? And so I think that's just I always say that beyond the just tactical stuff I'm going to give you, your mindset is just being the kid on the playground and playing with a bunch of women and not worrying about what's next. Just worry about how you feel and what is and what's right for you and not right for you. Does that all make sense? I know that was a lot.
No, that makes perfect sense. And yeah, in therapy, I have definitely stumbled upon the fear of abandonment. And
Mm,
even in the marriage with Megan, I never felt good enough. I don't know if that was my issue or if that was from the narcissism or some combination of the two. But yeah, I never felt good enough. And so I was not necessarily jealous of her cheating on me because I think she was a faithful person, but just jealous of whoever the next person after me would be. I had this, I can't be this perfect person, so why don't you go find this perfect person? And then end up being like jealous of that, you know, person that doesn't even exist, who fills all her needs and who's just perfect all the time, doesn't make any mistakes. And so
mm,
ended up almost being a self-fulfilling prophecy where I didn't feel good enough, didn't feel right, and then ended up, basically helping to blow up the marriage. And now I ended up not being the right person for her. So it all came true. And if I just could have, had more confidence or been more of a belief that the abandonment wasn't going to come, maybe it wouldn't have. But now, yeah, trying to address the abandonment is just being okay with being alone and not being lonely, just being alone and
mm-hmm,
knowing that people, they just will abandon, and that's just part of life. Even my own mother, she would never do it on her own, but she will she will leave one day. So at the end of the day,
Yeah.
even your own mother will abandon you one day. So yeah, I've got to get my head wrapped around that being okay. And that's almost the last abandonment to face before, you know, I really
Well,
get a grip. So hopefully I do some work here and get over the
yeah. And
fear of abandonment.
and these are kind of psychobabble type of words and big like esoteric goals, oh, just get over fear of abandonment. Oh, just be more confident. But like, what does that mean in real time? Right. Like, and it's not just, sitting in therapy for years and talking about it. And I'm saying this as a therapist. Like, I think you have a pretty good handle on, some of this stuff and the connection to this stuff. But I just want you to know that you are so much more beyond just being the caretaker. Like it's such a great thing that you have, but it's like I'd love for you to get to know yourself in way different ways that maybe you've never explored. Like you said, you've never been good at approach. You've never really like worked on flirting. You never, like I think that's what needs to happen right now and just really have fun with it. Like you've also like been in a very dark cloud for a long time. Like this is really tough stuff. And I'd love for you to have a period of just having fun, not worrying about any of that. It'll be so much more freeing. So I have some like just tangible ideas for you. So beyond being the kid on the playground and learning how to play and getting over this fear of abandonment, that means to date up a storm. So you ready?
Okay. If I can handle it, I'll try.
Yes, you can handle and but I'll give you very, very like small steps towards it because it's never a good idea to just go on the apps and just not like you said, you almost feel like you're numbing out going through all the faces, swiping right and left and all that.
Totally.
Um, but it's having intention with it. So I love your idea of going to different events and your job is also very social. I know
Yeah.
you can't do much when you're working, but certainly you're around social events that maybe you could meet somebody afterwards, kind of thing. And also, events, adventures, and then online. And I always say, like, build up your dating portfolio like you would your financial portfolio. The idea is to diversify as much as possible. It's never a good idea to just do one thing. That's when people burn out. So I like that, just that. And then remind me again, did you say that you have other single dudes that you have friends with or no?
Well, yeah, the so at my company, Disco Sapien, yeah, we do weddings and corporate events. And so a lot of my friends that are still people that are my like coworkers at my own companies. So do have like a number of friends that I've kept in touch with from high school, kept in touch with from college. Unfortunately, quite a few of them have already kind of married and had kids, so
Mhm.
lost a few of those friends to that. But I still do have a decent amount of single guy friends that I could go out with in a pack or something and try to do that
Yes.
in real
Okay.
life. So tell me about that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So is anyone in the pack, so to speak? And I wouldn't do a huge group. Maybe pick like one dude who's like really good at the approach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I want you to have that dude be your wingman. And like once a week, just like going to the gym, you're going to go to the flirt gym and you're going to go to different venues, different places. Just watch him, watch his body language, watch the way he connects with women and tell him, just be upfront, dude. Like, I want to learn this stuff. Like, I just want to, I'm just working on playing right now and meeting a bunch of women and I'd love your feedback and help. And just go out, I'd say once a week or once every other week and just exercise that muscle and just do cold approaches and just say hi to women. And really don't worry about I like nice guys like you always worry about being the asshole. And what I'm saying is there's no way you can be an asshole when you're a nice guy. Like there's no way that
And
you know what I mean?
also being the nice guy, you get stuck in the friend zone pretty quick. So, but not
Thank
with the
you.
approach you're saying. So the approach is great to be nice and be friendly and happy and smile and eye contact and all that good stuff. But then, yeah, in the getting stuck in the
It's
friend zone, that's
flirting.
when the flirting aspect.
Yes, it's
Yeah,
I want you practicing flirting because you're a friendly guy. That's easy. No, it's raising sexual tension. It's flirting. It's just it's leaning back a little bit and not like being the puppy dog all the time. It's like, all right, lady, what do you got for me? I know who I am, kind of thing. And I really want you practicing being in that energy.
yeah,
Okay, there's a great book I'll recommend, and actually he has been on my podcast, so I'm happy to shout him out. His it's called No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert Glover.
okay,
I think you'll love that book, and anyone listening, if you're a guy, it's a great book, and I encourage you to listen to the episode that he came on my podcast for because it isn't about it that women don't like nice guys. It's about setting boundaries. It's exactly what we were talking about, and how you want to do that. And that would be the third thing that I'd love for you to practice is saying no to the things you don't want to do and saying yes to the things you do and
yeah,
not worrying about what other people think. And if a woman, you like her, don't, like really practice. Oh, so where do you want to go? What do you like to do? I'm not saying that you do that, but I'm just using it's more like, I like you. What's your number? I want to take you out. And here's where we're going to go. Like, really just practice stepping up like that
yeah.
and doing things that you like. Because at the end of the day, Rex, we cannot change these narcissistic women or these borderline women or all these women who struggle with that. And by the way, narcissism actually comes from in childhood a lack of something, a lack of
Oh, yeah.
love, right? A lack of that fulfillment. And it's never enough because it's an empty vessel. It never was fulfilled. And so they look to like get that quick hit to fill themselves up, but it doesn't last. Like it
Makes
goes
perfect
out,
sense. Yeah, because
right?
she grew up with her nanny, basically raised her. Her parents were at, high profile working people. Her mom's a doctor, her dad's an engineer, and so they were, either in medical school and her mom is definitely a narcissist too. So she got it honestly from
Mhm.
her mother, but yeah, it makes sense that she wouldn't have learned the kind of unconditional love or the attachment style that I'm used to with two parents that, especially during my early childhood, we're definitely there and we're happy. Just once I hit high school or so, that's when their lives started to be a little bit more chaotic and less, perfect family style. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then same thing with money, not just buying everything for them too, like trying to like not trying to have a boundaries there and slowly roll out myself, my personality, and then also what I'm doing for them, and also ways I'm using money, because money ended up becoming another reason why we would fight was like I don't know, I just gave her too many things, and then all of a sudden she resents me for it, kind of a thing. Like it felt like she never was grateful. She always just ended up being resentful the more that I gave her, which is a weird way that I feel like it shouldn't go that way, but it definitely felt like that's what happened in our.
Well, yeah, and this is where you got to do some another kind of homework assignment for you, a check and balance for yourself because again, you're not going to be able to change these women and you're actually probably going to find yourself still attracted to these women. Okay? What the only thing you can do is start showing up differently yourself to get a different result and to attract different kind of women. And in the beginning, by the way, I'll warn you, you may not even be attracted to the good women or the ones that are right for you because there's not enough stuff that you feel that you can give to them because they might even look a little too independent and a little too self-sufficient in the beginning, and you might be like, oh, well, she doesn't need me enough. I need to be needed. Not in that way, like in that way, but more just you're so good at it that you're defaulting to that being your confidence rather than just you, Rex.
And we're
You're,
not even
rem-
talking about looks at all. We're talking about just, yeah, personality types that are, and
I mean, honestly, it could be both, right? Like, I mean, sometimes the really good looking women also have that narcissistic, stuff. I call it the shiny object. And It's not all of the women either. I guess just don't get caught up with the shiny object where you're trying to go after something that you see as like high value, yet they're not doing anything for you.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a little bit of slowing down and pacing yourself. And I would say, I mean, honestly, if we were working together, I said, as long as you're under my watch, I would not let you get another girlfriend for at least 6 months to a year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how long it takes to even to just heal the nervous system after
Right.
it's regulated like that.
And, there's some people who say, oh, well, you can't date until you're totally healed. I don't believe in that. I actually believe dating is part of the healing, but it's just looking at it differently as long as you're intentional and you're focused on you, not the woman. That's the whole thing. So when you go on dates, you ask yourself, how did I feel? What did
Yeah.
she bring to the table? What are her value to me, like, and really, because I think your whole focus before was always on them, and that makes sense with your upbringing with dad and mom. It's reversing it, because honestly, at the end of the day, Rex, this has nothing to do with the woman. It's all about you.
Yeah. Yeah, looking at her value and it's going to be easy for the next person to prove value pretty quick because I do have two little boys. So if she's
Oh yeah.
if she's wonderful to them, and then that's going to show a lot of value and a lot of her her nature right away, you know. And
Yeah, but
so,
before you introduce them, I want you getting used to determining that.
or even just how she talks about children or something.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh,
Not
for
healthy. I
sure.
know it's not healthy for them to meet the boys for a long time until we're stable. So
Right, right,
I'm going to
right.
keep that in mind. But just how she kind of talks about little kids or something, you know, might be a way to
Oh,
show value
absolutely.
in a way. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
when I'm looking for value from them, I'm just looking for, I guess, like stability or like character traits, like values, like a stable family, or I'm kind of just looking for red flags and green flags. And then
it's
if I get
like
a green flag, it's a value or
it's all of the above. I know. And I don't want to overwhelm you because I think it's too hard to look at all of that right now. You're just getting back out there. I would start really, really simple. And that's why I'm saying first work on your mindset, then work on your approach, work on playing and flirting, and then finally just work on the boundaries and see who shows up for you, Now beyond that, like I actually, you can go back and listen to one of the episodes where I talk about the 4 C's in compatibility. And that might be a really good one to listen to in the different categories. Like there's chemistry, there's compatibility, there is, things that are compelling, and then also how do you compromise all those things. So those are the 4 C's. And within that, you're just kind of collecting data. Because, when you first meet someone, kind of to the point where you said when you met your ex, everybody looks great in the honeymoon phase. Like they look fantastic in the compelling phase, as I call it. Um, but that's why it's so important to pace things out. So then you can see how they rate in chemistry, and there's different domains of chemistry. And then if you get past that, well, how compatible are they? Like, yeah, you have kids now. Like, it's not enough to just, meet a fabulous woman who's not going to be nice to your kids or they're not in the same place. And then when you get through all of that, then you're like, well, am I willing to compromise some things that I already have? So in other words, it's a system, and I don't want you worrying about it so much. That's kind of later on. Where you're at, you're literally back in, I'm putting you back in kindergarten. Like you're just on the playground. You're not on the
yeah,
PhD program yet. And I
back in high
say this,
school. Yeah.
I was gonna say, and this probably, I hope that relieves you because this is much, much more fun and easier to just be kind of present with those little action items that I have you do. And honestly, that's going to be the best way to rebuild your confidence is to like go out regularly, have that mindset, even just doing cold approaches in the grocery store, like in your everyday errands. You don't have to always like be in the formal. Oh, I see your face looks scared.
Yeah, the coffee shop, the grocery store,
Yes.
the bookstore. Yeah. and you just go up and talk to a stranger. And yeah, that
Oh
sounds
my God,
like
can you believe it? I know, and one that
a
has
beautiful stranger. Yeah.
beauty
Worse.
to her. Yes, I know. But you know what? That is a way better goal than like, oh, I have to get back out there and date again. Like, just get used to the female energy again beyond being in that relationship and beyond being attached to the outcome. It's just saying hi to a beautiful woman and having a lovely conversation, and then you're going to practice flirting with her. Like, and the more you do it, just like when you first started out as a DJ, probably was a little rough. And then you kept doing it. Now you could probably spin with your eyes closed. This is literally no different. You've never done this before.
Yeah, practice makes perfect, and yeah, it's going to be clunky at first, so just expect that, and also be good with rejection too. Just kind of
Yeah.
expect rejection, and no big deal. Nothing's ever a big deal.
Well, it's a big deal because when you first are rejected, it's really hard. But then when you've been rejected so much, you'll laugh after a while and just be like, oh, well, she saved me a lot of time. And Rex, you're such a good-looking dude. You have the world in front of you. You're young, you have a great career, you have fantastic kids. Like, remember, you have a lot of value, and just take your time. There's no rushing to the finish line. This is a marathon, and just pace yourself. And that's ultimately how you're going to get over the fear of abandonment, by not rushing, by just pacing this out, because then you won't have that desperate need to be needed, if that makes sense.
Now's my chance to overcome the abandonment. And yeah, in a way, this with the marriage falling apart with two children and the house and everything that we built, there's almost no other abandonment that has ever hurt this much. So any future
Yeah.
abandonment, is no big deal. If she says no to me in the grocery store, well, no big deal. It's not gonna hurt because I know what real abandonment and real hurt
Oh my
is like.
God, so well put. Yeah, you already have been in that huge, huge hurt of rejection. But yeah, I don't even believe in rejection. I just believe in experience. It's an experience that, might hurt in that moment, but then it builds you over time. So, Rex, I hope this was helpful. Any last words, or how do you feel?
I feel really good, and thanks for all your kind words and building up my confidence. That's what you do. And yeah, I'd say your podcasts have been really fun to listen to. They're all kind of evergreen. They're not really top, like dated. They all sound like it's valuable stuff. So everybody should check out some of the podcasts from before as well. And yeah, I just hope that if there's anybody out there who feels like they are kind of losing themselves to the relationship and kind of losing touch with their interests, their friends, their goals, their heart, their identity,
Mm,
just know that it's really hard to get back. Once you lose it, it's hard to get it back. So I would be a little cautious if you feel that way in a relationship. And also if you feel confused, if you don't know if they love you the way you love them, then they probably don't. So I
ah,
look for confusion as one of the narcissist techniques too. If you feel confused, then that's what they want you to feel, and that's the way they kind of feed off of your energy. So I'd watch out for confusion. If you don't, it doesn't feel reciprocal and you feel like you're being diminished and being kind of put down and devalued, then you might be in the decline phase of the narcissistic relationship headed towards that discard. So watch out because it comes quick, and I hope it doesn't happen to anybody else. But if it does, I hope this maybe helps to prepare somebody or help know that you're not alone out there.
Rex, thank you so much. That was beautiful, like share. And again, just coming from a man, whether you're listening as a man or a woman, just hearing it, from the heart, I think is just going to help so many. And so thank you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, and I enjoyed the time together today.
Okay, awesome. And thanks for joining me today. This has been the Charisma Quotient. I'm your host, of course, Kimmy Seltzer. And remember, you can build confidence, make connection, and find love from the outside in. Healing after a narcissistic relationship isn't linear. It's not about getting over it or forcing it or to move on faster. It's about the rebuilding of the trust, like we said, with yourself, with your body, with your ability to connect again in a whole different way. And if you recognize yourself in this and you're dating again, but you feel guarded in some ways, it could be showing up in your body language, even. If you're questioning your instincts, hop on a private call with me. We'll take a look at where you've been, what's holding you back, and what it would take to move forward. I also, actually, in a couple weeks, have a flirt workshop. Rex, you have to come to that one, where I will teach you how to flirt without pressure, without games, and without feeling awkward. It's not about pickup lines or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about learning how to use your body language, energy, and natural charisma to create the attraction and connection in real life. So just go to stophatingdating.com. That's stophatingdating.com to register. And I hope to see you there. Remember, working on you is working on your dating life. That's all for now.